Hello, Huda, and welcome to Roadmap to Recognition. I'm very pleased to have you here with me, all the way from Pune, India. What's the weather like at the moment in Pune?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you, first of all, for getting in touch with me, for allowing me to share this experience. The weather in Pune is actually around 30 degrees. It's December.
Amazing. I'm
you,
so
you, you,
jealous.
pro- you probably shouldn't have asked me that question sitting in the UK.
I'm very jealous because at the moment in Nottingham, the temperatures are, well, it's the middle of winter and the temperatures are close to freezing. But although today is actually a beautiful day, but I believe you are used to these temperatures as you are based not very far from here, actually, in Nuneaton, closer to Birmingham.
Yes,
Is that right?
yes. It's a small town between Leicester and Birmingham.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant. How long have you been there?
So been right now I'm permanently based in the UK. I moved to the UK in late 2017.
Mhm.
So it's been 3 years.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And tell us what you've been up to in these last 3 years.
So I graduated in architecture in 2017,
Mhm.
mid of 2017. After which I got married to somebody based in the UK. So before that, before 2017, I'd never visited the UK. I had no idea about the weather, the climate, the people, the culture. Obviously, I've seen it. I've read books about it. I've seen it in movies and things like that. But um, so yeah, when I first went to the country, obviously everything was like new, different, all the rest of it. Um, Freshly graduated from architecture. I did a 5 years bachelor's in architecture course from the University of Pune here, and then obviously moved to the UK late 2017, and then started around mid 2018 is when I started looking at um, these exams that the ARB conducts
Mm.
to register as a qualified as a chartered architect in the UK.
Mm.
So I took in 2018. I took the preparatory course by the RIBA in Chester,
Yep.
mid of 2018, which I think was quite helpful because I met a lot of people who were in a similar situation
Mm.
um, as me from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And then after that, just kind of started compiling all of my work for the exam, and I think it took me a few months to just get everything together. It wasn't even working on the portfolio. It was just like
Yeah.
revisiting the past 5 years of my course and just making sure I could sort of reorganize and just gather everything, all the material that I'd studied.
Mm.
That took a lot of work, and then I think after that it took another couple of months to uh, understand the comparative matrix
Mm.
and sort of build the portfolio and organize it according to the 33 criterias.
Mhm. Mhm.
And in 2019 February is when I gave the exam,
Mm.
and hopefully and luckily um, I passed it in the first attempt, and I'm hoping
Yeah.
hoping to pass the part 2 exam sometime this year in the first attempt. So let's just see how that goes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Like to gather all that information. There's a lot of information to gather for the portfolio. But I think also what's great about your work is that I think you kept most of uh, the material that you produced for architecture school. Is that right? Were you able to
Yes.
use was there a lot that you needed to produce for the portfolio, or did you already have a good database of material um, to present for the portfolio?
I feel like I already had a good database because obviously it hadn't been that long since I had passed from architecture school. So to sort of go back and revisit the material
Hmm.
and even recreate some of the lost material was easier for me because it had only been a year or so since I passed the course. But I feel as if a lot of people that give these exams after many years of passing.
Mm.
the course, the bachelor's course, they find it difficult to reproduce the work and to kind of go back to being a student and, you know, recreating the whole process diagrams and things like that.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I was a bit lucky because I kind of did it quite immediately. So I still had access to a lot of my
Mm.
um, university work and things like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant. And actually, I had a look at your website, which is beautiful, by
Ah,
the
thank you.
way. I'll
Thank
leave a link in
you.
the description box. I have to say, it's a beautiful compilation of architectural projects that you did at uni, art pieces, photography, branding, and also
Thank
really
you.
good recommendations for books with little captions and takeaways and that sort of thing. So I think it's brilliant that you were able to document everything in your website and keep that information. I wonder if you have developed all these multidisciplinary skills in architecture school, and if the nature of the course or maybe the structure of the course in Pune encouraged using like different media for communicating ideas.
Yeah, definitely. I think studying architecture is such a is just so multi-dimensional. So you're studying design, and design could be um, you know designing a 2D image, designing a building, designing landscaping, designing a layout on a tablescape for photographs. It's just, I think we were really encouraged to kind of explore all of these different
Mm,
aspects of design and then kind of bring it together and tie it to architecture. So
mm,
I think in the course of the 5 years, we did a lot of other subjects related to design along with architecture, like photography,
mm,
copywriting, graphic designing, and things like that.
mm. That's beautiful, and a lot of hand sketching as well, and model making. I noticed.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I would like to bring to everybody's notice that in India, I mean, till the time that I was studying, I think it's the same rule right now, but obviously it's a 5 year course. So the first 3 years that we study architecture, we are not allowed to use any softwares. It all has to be handwork.
Yeah.
So the first year to third year is complete handwork and hand rendering and drafting and redrafting sheets. So it's no you can't like easily delete and Photoshop
Yeah.
your mistakes and things like that. Everything's on paper,
Yeah.
um, which at that point we found really frustrating because we were like, well, we're in
Yeah.
2015, we're in 2016, we're in 2000, why are our professors making us, draft these sheets and like, do hand sketches? Like,
Yeah.
we've got Photoshop to learn, we've got SketchUp, Revit,
Yeah.
V-Ray, things like that. Like, why are we wasting time on hand rendering? Like, this doesn't make sense.
Uh-huh.
And then obviously, the fourth year and the fifth year is when we were introduced to softwares. So by then we become quite. I'd like to say that we become quite the expert at like um, schematic diagrams and quick sections and sketches and things like that. So I feel like it was quite necessary and it was quite important for us to do that because you can always learn softwares. It's all there. It's all available on YouTube. But the whole experience of the whole experience of sketching and drawing designs and concepts by hand on a paper is something I kind of still go back to, and I'm just so grateful that they did it the way they did it. Because when I went for my part one exam, that was one of the things that the examiners pointed out. They said that we really like your handwork and your sketches and the detailing. It just feels like you've kind of understood the design completely, and the way you explain and express yourself through drawing on paper is quite nice. So I feel like that should be encouraged more, because software is something that every individual can learn on their own. But I think more now than ever, like, definitely I think students should be encouraged to like forget the laptop and just have like a big
Yeah.
A0 size sheet and just go crazy with
Yeah.
pencils and
Um, so basically you had all that material, so that already that's really a good starting point. But then there were some specific criteria that are uh, specific to the UK, I would say. For example, GC 10.3, it says that the graduate needs to have the skills to prepare designs that will meet building users' requirements and comply with UK legislation, appropriate performance standards, and health and safety requirements. So that is quite specific to the UK. And I wonder how you were able um, to meet these criteria, knowing that you haven't had lots of experience in the UK.
I feel as if at part one level, the examiners aren't necessarily looking for experience in the architecture field in the UK.
Mm.
I feel like this is obviously based on my personal experience. I feel like they're looking for an awareness and understanding that somebody coming from a different country acknowledges and understands that, well, I've studied architecture in a different country. I understand that the building regulations and rules work differently in this country that I'm coming from, and they work differently in the country that I am aspiring to find work in. And it's very important to highlight that in your portfolio, and more than kind of showing that you have experience, they want to see that you have a willingness to kind of make an effort to learn about this new country and this whole field of architecture in this country that you're kind of looking to get experience in. So I feel like that's really important. So even if you don't have experience in architecture, go out there and kind of make an effort to learn what's already happening in the country, and try to relate all of that information to your work.
Mm. Mm-mm. I think that's brilliant. I honestly, I told you this, I think before. I think it's really fascinating, and I did not think that it was possible. And I think
I
that's
didn't know
why.
that till you told me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think it's really it's really impressive, and I think I did that a little bit in my thesis, but somehow I was convinced that I needed Par 3 level experience to satisfy any of these criteria, which is why I started doing the Par 3 program first before I submitted my portfolio the second time around. And I think
Of
it's
course.
really amazing that you were able to do that, even without Part 3 experience. And I think it will give hope to many people who are willing to apply to the
I hope
prescribed
so.
exams, but aren't necessarily working in architectural practice at the moment. Uh, Amazing. So, will you show us how you did it?
Sure, sure. So the project that you see on the screen is my final year thesis project, which was a mine training and research center. Now, this was obviously quite a comprehensive design project. I want to highlight the word comprehensive because that's one of the words that keeps popping up on the comparative matrix. And what I mean by comprehensive is obviously everything about this project had to be detailed out, right from obviously the zoning, concept design, building technology, materials, building services, lighting, landscaping, things like that. So it just made sense for me to kind of revisit this project with the perspective of the criteria to talk about that talk about the UK building laws and regulations. So what I did about, sorry. So if you can see the screen, that's
Yeah.
just the whole introduction. I'm just going to quickly go through the pages.
Yeah, not a problem.
And just try and jump to the section where
I noticed there are a lot of case studies, and that's a big part of the criteria is to be able to look at precedents.
precedent.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. So obviously, before you kind of jump into any sort of designing anything, even for the concept, pre-design and things like that, a lot of emphasis was given to case studies and then sort of doing a lot of them and then comparing these case studies and then coming up with your own brief
Solution.
that would be that would kind of be informed by all of your research work and studies.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Obviously it's just concept pages, and then you've got, so that's the final roof plan, and that's the zoning plan, and that's the main site plan. I don't know if you would I think it'd be quite nice for somebody if they wanted to go through the whole design in detail. It's obviously always there on our website, so because if I start explaining the design, we're just going to be here for ages. So I'm just going to quickly jump to the section where.
How long did it take you to do this project? Was it like a 6-month project? Was it your?
Yeah, this one was a 6-month project. Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously, as you can see, that's the building services. Now, the page that you see on the screen now was informed by the approved document H, which is listed by the UK government as one of the building. There's this whole list of annexures on the UK government's website where they've listed down these building laws and regulations. So before I did these sketches and added these sheets at the end of the project, I had to kind of read through all of the laws and pick up a few extracts that made sense to my design. And then what I did essentially was kind of put those at the end of this design project and say, well, this is how the detail of placements of the pipes would be. This is how the detail of bedding for pipes and drains would be if it was designed according to the UK building standards and regulations. So that was one thing. And then the second was trying to sort of take small sections of the design and highlight how the detail, the construction detail would be according to the UK building standards and regulations. So if you see on the page that I've shared here, I have taken approved document C, which talks about site preparation and resistance to contaminants and moisture. So obviously there's construction of ground supported floor to avoid dampness. So I've just taken a little picture highlighting the section that I would implement this detail on. Same with the second two pictures that you see, where I've spoken about construction of windows and glass walls for use in exposed areas. So on the left you have pictures of the areas that I would implement these details on, and then on the right obviously you've got the details which were obviously informed by these approved documents.
Yeah.
And then
brilliant.
Yeah, it's the same thing done on the next page as well. So I'm on the next page I'm talking about details of changes according to the UK building regulations of handrail standards and staircases and ramps and things like that. So it was just basically going through the whole documents and just picking details that I thought would make sense in the design. So I think there's so many different details in all of the different approved documents. Is just I feel like there is a lot of variety and options you could kind of choose from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also the jury is not expecting you to cover every single every single one. But I think it's very smart of you that you covered it on 3 different aspects of your project. You didn't just do it on one aspect of the project. I think that's a key thing to do in the portfolio. Whenever you're covering a criterion, it needs to be done on several levels, on different aspects of the project.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I feel like one of the things that the candidates need to kind of try and give importance to is whenever you're looking to satisfy any given criteria, try to have more than one evidence material supporting it, because you never know what the examiners might miss, or you never know how the examiners are interpreting a given diagram or a given piece of information which you feel is satisfying a certain criteria, but according to the examiners, it's not really satisfying the criteria. So you want to give them options, and hope that at least one of the 3 or 4 options would definitely satisfy the criteria as laid out.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, that's I think that's very useful. I think this will be very, very useful to so many people and will give people
I
ideas,
really hope so.
yeah,
I
of
really
how
hope so.
they can because I've got many, well, a couple of requests of people who asked me, do you think I need a lot of experience in the UK if I want to take the exam? And honestly, I thought yes, that was my idea until I met you and until I saw what you've done, and now I'm, you showed us that it's possible, very much doable to do it, yeah, following this approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just, so obviously, so I don't know if you're already aware of this, but since I passed the part 1 exam, I have been mentoring a lot of other people
Yeah, I was going to ask you
that
about this.
have been preparing for the part 1 exams, and some of them have already successfully passed them. Some of them are still in the process. So um, every person that I meet, every portfolio that I go through is so different from the other. So it's just, I feel as if like with an exam like this, it's not really one rule fits all. It just really depends on how an individual perceives these criterias and how well they're able to satisfy them. So you know how obviously a lot of candidates would be like, well, I don't really have experience in the UK, so would I be able to pass the exam? Well, it depends on how well you can satisfy these criteria and if you really understand what they're asking of you. You know, if you can successfully decipher each criteria and satisfy every word that is written in the criteria in the comparative matrix, and I mean, why not? You know, so it's very subjective in a way, and it's just, I feel like every portfolio and every, like no 2 portfolios are the same. So it just really depends. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing that you're doing your mentoring. And I wanted to ask you actually, from what you've seen so far, are there any common mistakes that candidates tend to make, or are there any particular aspects that candidates tend to struggle with?
I feel like, so the overall kind of thing that's lacking in the candidates is not really the work or the quality of work that they have. I feel like most of the time the portfolios are answering the criteria is listed down by the ARB, but it's the way they present it, it's the way they organize the portfolios. So whenever I'm mentoring any candidate, I always say to them, I don't want to see your portfolio right now. I need to make sure that you completely understand the comparative matrix, because the comparative matrix is basically essentially the backbone of your portfolio. If you've completely understood and deciphered the comparative matrix, it's going to become very easy for you to go back to your portfolio and kind of identify the loopholes, and then address those points, and then make sure that you've added the essential information to satisfy all of the criteria. Because a lot of times what happens is, obviously, whenever you throw in the word portfolio, there's like high-tech softwares and beautifully rendered images and nice presentation, and which is really nice, to see.
Yeah.
But the ARB doesn't really have time to, like when they're going through a portfolio, they don't really have time to sit down and appreciate, well, this is really nice presentation. They're very it's very forensic in a way. It's very sort of obviously very sort of objective, but nice colors, nice presentation, but have you satisfied these criteria? So I feel like what one must really spend a good amount of time understanding the criteria. Like I'll give you an example. So when I say understanding the criteria, what I mean is, so I think in GC 1.1 it says that the candidate must prepare and present a variety of projects in prepare and present.
I've
Where
got it in
is
front of me. Prepare and present building design projects of diverse scale, complexity, and type in a variety of contexts, using a range of media and in response to a brief.
exactly. So, just in that one sentence, the candidates would feel like it's just one criteria. Well, I just need to. They'll probably think in the head, well, I just really need to present different types of building projects, right? Different scales of building projects, but they fail to realize that just within that one criteria, there's so many different keywords that they need to highlight. So they need to speak about variety of context, range of media, response to a brief, um, different things like that. And each of those words are asking of different things from the candidate. So they need to sit down and really break down each criteria and kind of just list down keywords against each criteria. So you can say GC1 is asking me to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. GC2 is talking about these keywords, and then really sit down and understand. Well, do I really have a range of media? Do I really are my projects in response to a brief? Do I have do I have a variety of projects in different contexts? So I feel like just really understanding the criterias will really make it easy for them to put in the necessary work. So you're not really just adding anything and everything in your portfolio. Everything then becomes objective, and everything in your portfolio is there for a reason and answering a certain criteria.
Yeah, and that's also a nice way to focus your time, because you don't have to produce masses of things. Like you said, when you know what you are asked to produce, then you can do it in a very focused way. And actually, it's good that you brought this up, because this came up in a previous interview that I did with Jesse, and we talked about how it's the matrix is, like you said, the backbone of the portfolio, and it's something that I didn't know. It's the mistake that I made the first time around, and I didn't think it was. I thought it was just a small summary of the work that I was presenting, and I failed to understand that it's actually the key, and that you need to spend a lot of time on the matrix, and it needs to be immaculate. It needs to be done perfectly well before you can even start thinking about, you know, uh, what things you need to add to your portfolio. So that's a really good point. Yeah.
Definitely, I feel like once you've identified the loopholes, once you've kind of made a list, made notes of, okay, this is what's missing in my portfolio, this is what I can do, this is what doesn't really need to be in my portfolio because it's not it's just visual noise, it's not really answering any criteria, and this is what I can add, and this is how I can do it. I feel like I spent more time making notes than I did actually compiling my portfolio, because once I had done the whole brainstorming and really deciphering the comparative matrix and analyzing it and making my notes and kind of saying, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to do. After that, it was very easy for me to work on the portfolio because I knew exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. That's a good way of doing it. I wanted to ask you about your interview experience. As there isn't much information about the interview in general online. How is that for you?
I feel like it's just so obviously this question is will you'll understand as I speak that my answer would be linked to how important understanding the comparative matrix and organizing your portfolio is, because I don't think I'm the best person to um, to share the interview experience. I'll tell you why. Because obviously, so I've submitted my portfolios. Obviously, when I gave my part one exam, it was all in person, so it wasn't online, and I submitted physical copies of my portfolios and other dissertation and journals and things like that. And then my interview was on the same day in the afternoon at 3 p.m. And obviously, I'm sitting here at 2:45 p.m. in the ARB office, like with sweaty palms and everything, just waiting for 3 p.m. just thinking, oh my god, what's going to happen? Like you know, I mean, I'm here now. I don't know what's going to happen. You just like completely zone out and blank out, because obviously it was such a big deal. It is still such a big deal for me. And I was just there like, oh my God, I don't know anything. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm going to say to these examiners.
You start doubting your work and you start doubting everything. Yeah.
Definitely. I was just like, I'm not even an architect. I don't know what's happening. I can't even spell architecture. Like, why am I sitting in this office? Like, who are these people? Can I just go back?
Yeah.
And use my portfolio, you know, all of those thoughts. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, at 3 p.m. I was waiting in the lobby, and one of these examiners walked up to me and said, "Well, Huda Patel." I said, "Yes, yeah, I think so." Yeah. You know, it's when you also even forget your name, like you're doubting, am I really this person?
I
So
can
I was
relate.
like, yes. Yeah, and they were really kind enough to say, well, you know, can you follow us to the examination room? And then I followed this examiner, and then as I entered the room, obviously there was this conference table, and there were three architects sitting in front of me, opposite me, sorry, and there was another lead examiner sitting on one corner of the room. And I feel as if as soon as I walked into the room, it just all of my nervousness had suddenly just gone away, and I just went in, introduced myself, sat down, and then I think the examiners kind of just looked at each other for a bit, and then they're like, okay, right. And then they just asked me a few questions about, because obviously these exams have to last for an hour, I think, and obviously they'd gone through my portfolio and things like that. So I think they asked me a lot of questions about how architecture is different in the UK from India, about building, the difference between building laws and health and safety laws. So obviously the way I answered that one was, building laws is obviously related to construction design and detailing and material specification and things like that, and health and safety would be something related to, you know, if you were to design a nursery or a children's play area, you know, how would you design the flooring? It would definitely be rubber mat flooring or anti-skid tiles. If you were to design a hospital for disabled people, you would have railings around the corridor and things like that. So so it was a lot of common sense and very sort of basic when you actually go down to see you know, the answer. But it's just, I feel as if they were looking to see if I've got the common sense to kind of differentiate between building laws and health and safety laws. So that is that's one of the questions that I could remember. And then I think we had a conversation about obviously how architecture is different in the UK from India. So I feel as if essentially architecture in different countries is dictated by the climate and the weather, right?
Yeah.
The way buildings are designed in India are designed to primarily obviously try and control the amount of heat and sunlight that goes into the house. So we've got overhangs. The way our windows are designed is different, and the way buildings are designed in the UK is also primarily to control heat loss in buildings and try and get the maximum amount of light in and insulate things like that. So that's,
you know, manage the rain with the gable roofs and that sort of thing.
Obviously, because there's a lot of rainfall, so there has to be sloping roofs and things like that. So I feel like the answers always stem from logic and kind of, you know, I feel like once you go in there and you're like, oh my God, they've just asked me how is that, and you're like thinking, I don't know, it's just buildings. It's just like, well, I feel like you just need to kind of remain calm, and just because you never know what the questions are going to be, so you just have to try and do your best and use logic and common sense. So I think those were the main two things. And then I think by then it was around I was 20 minutes in, and then they just looked at each other again, and they said, well, I think we're done here. Okay. And I'm panicking again, and I've got sweaty palms and literally sweating all over, and I'm like, this is a disaster. I mean, how can you be done it? Like, obviously, I'm not saying this to them, but I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I've completely screwed up so badly.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like, they just shut my portfolios, and they're like, well, I think we're done here. And I said to them out loud, I said, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, because really this should have lasted an hour. And they just, one of them I remember just kind of smiled and said, don't worry about it. Like, don't read too much into it, because obviously they can't really give things away.
They can't tell you.
Of course, another thing that they actually did say to me is, you've organized your portfolio really well, and everything's quite self-explanatory. But obviously, so I'm done in 20 minutes, and I've picked up my portfolio and my stuff, and I've left the interview room thinking I'm going to fail, and this is like the worst interview of my life, and I don't know what's going to happen. And I think the worst part is waiting for the results. So the 2-3 weeks after the exam is like
Torture.
It's such a bad period, because you can't even sleep, you don't know what's going to happen, all the rest of it. So when they got back to me by email, and they said, congratulations, you passed the exam, I was like, oh my God, like that's really nice. And then I think they add the record sheet by the examiners,
Yeah.
wherein so obviously, like, similar to how the candidates have the comparative matrix where the 33 criteria are listed.
Yeah.
They have a record sheet where the 33 criteria are listed, and there's boxes next to the criteria. So they've got a line of boxes which says at the time of the closed evaluation. So this is before the interview actually happens. This is when they kind of go through your work by themselves, and then they've got another column next to it with boxes that says during interview.
Yeah.
So luckily, what happened was I had managed to satisfy 32 of the 33 criteria at the time of the closed evaluation. So there was just one criteria that needed kind of, they probably needed to ask me a few questions on, which was the criteria about the UK laws. So that was thankfully satisfied in the interview round. So I feel as if obviously it's a lot has to, the credit has to go to kind of the comparative matrix and how well you can sort of organize your work and understand the comparative matrix.
No, that's brilliant.
I think it's the whole power of organizing your portfolio. So I feel like every candidate that plans to give these exams should kind of aim to satisfy all of the criterias in the portfolio, and not kind of leave any room for doubt, thinking that, oh, that's okay, I'll just talk about it in the interview, because that can be quite dangerous.
Yeah. I think if you don't satisfy at least half of the criteria from your portfolio alone, then you are not invited to take the interview, and you fail automatically. So it's a big risk to take. I wouldn't go down that route.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, brilliant. That's really good. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. So, what's next for you? I believe you said you are going to take the part 2 exam soon. Is that right?
Yes, I'm hoping to take the part 2 exam soon, and I've completely forgotten the whole experience of the part 1. So it feels like right now I feel like I've never taken any exam in my life, and I'm just completely going to, if this is going to be a disaster, and my work is not good enough and all the rest of it, which some days I actually believe to be true, and some days I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to fluke it. I'm just going to pretend like I know what I'm doing, and maybe I'll pass the exam. So I really don't know what's going to happen. Just hoping that I can kind of get through this and hope to pass it.
All of us will have these doubts at some point, and like, even that reminds me, in architecture school, when you finish your project and it's the time to do the crit, and just you hang your work, and then you enter the studio and you see all other people's work, and you think, oh no, mine is not good enough.
I want to take my sheets off the panel. I don't want anyone.
I know, exactly. And you panic for 5 minutes, and then you realize, no, actually, this is all right. This is all right. And then there's that moment of doubt. Well, Huda,
That's the fun of this beautiful, beautiful field,
I know.
creative field. in-
Yeah, I know. But because, like you said, it's very subjective, but like you said, as long as you have the methodology, as long as you understand the brief really well, and you go at things with a logical way, there's no reason why, you should fail.
Definitely.
Well, Huda, I wish you the best of luck and thank you so much for your time and sharing with us your experience and your learnings. I'm sure this will help so many people, and I hope we'll get to meet in person once you're back and once we are allowed, of course. And very best of luck for your exam and your job hunt.
Well, thanks to you. Thanks to you for organizing this, for getting in touch with me. Thank you for, obviously, I'm sure this is going to really benefit so many people out there. So thank you, really, not me. Thank you for getting in touch with me and so many others like me. And I can't wait to see the finished, the whole list of other architects and listen to other people's stories. And yeah, definitely meet you when I'm back in the country.
Absolutely.
And things are a little less crazy in
Absolutely.
the world. Yeah.
All right, I'll speak to you soon.
I'll
Bye.
speak to you soon. Bye.